Hi. So finally on 21st August 2025, that is yesterday, the Government of India through its Ministry of Sports has put out a public document which clearly states India's stated policy towards Pakistan in terms of sporting contact. Now that document has clarified everything, and from now onward there should be no doubt or debate or discussion about what is sign of patriotism, what is sign of nationalism and what is not, who should be called a traitor, who should not be, what action should be taken on the sporting field, what kind of sporting contact we should have, and how can somebody say that okay he watched the match, how can somebody cover a match, how can somebody talk about a match. So all these kind of speculations should be put to rest, because government and we are all bound by the government who represents us at the national level has made it very clear about India's sporting contact with Pakistan. And bizarrely, the document starts with a very so-called tough stand or a bravado saying that India will refuse to play Pakistan in any bilateral sports ties, nor they will allow Pakistan to come to play any bilateral sports ties in India, which is really laughable and ridiculous, and only the very gullible and naive people, the fans who have no understanding of things will get carried away by this statement, and they may start believing that yes, the government has taken a very tough stand post the Pahalgam barbaric attack by the Pakistani-based terrorists and the subsequent Operation Sindoor. But anybody who has a slight common sense would be knowing that it is just a very, very open, empty rhetoric, and in fact it is being used to hide the things which are to come in the subsequent paragraphs in that publication. Because since 2013, India has not had played any bilateral sporting tie against Pakistan, especially in cricket. So for last 12 years, India has not played any bilateral series against Pakistan. So to state that obvious in 2025 and to put it in the front to show as if India has taken a very brave, strong, tough stand, a very new and radical and revolutionary stand or a path-breaking stand is laughable and it's bizarre, and nobody would be really getting carried away or really going to be convinced about that. We are all aware that this is going to make it look very tough so that the subsequent softening of stand can be suppressed or can be hidden, because subsequently the announcement really tells you the gist of this whole document and the stated policy. And it says, however, in multilateral events, India will continue to play Pakistan in any sport. So it is just not about cricket. In any sport they will play and they will continue to play, and there will be no problem. And even if it is played or India hosts those events, then Pakistan will be allowed to come, they will be invited, they will be given the visa. There will be no problem in even forcing them to play India outside. Of course, in cricket, it is already clear that this has gone out of that purview of this document, because once India refused to travel to Pakistan in Champions Trophy and the matches were held in a neutral venue of UAE, after Pakistan had visited India to play the 2023 World Cup, Pakistan hardened its stand and they bargained with ICC and they had a discussion with the Indian board, and Indian board had to give in and they had to agree that henceforth, since Pakistan was the host and India didn't travel for the Champions Trophy, so the same thing will be applicable to Pakistan and India once India hosts any global or any ICC event. So that means if there would be any tournament India hosts and Pakistan plays there, then Pakistan will play India outside India in a neutral territory, because they will not travel to India till the time India travels to Pakistan for any event they host. So that means the 2025 Women's ODI World Cup, though India would be the host, India will play Pakistan outside India, that's in Colombo. And if Pakistan advances to the knockout stages, then they will also play all their opponents just like their preliminary league stages in Colombo. And if India happens to play Pakistan in either semi-final or final, that match would also be held in Colombo. So even though India would be host, India would play them outside. So this particular part of this announcement saying that if India hosts and Pakistan comes, India will give them the visa, also doesn't make any relevance. Of course, in future, if India travels, then they will be Pakistan may come to India, and that time it will be eligible, or that clause would be applicable. And of course, for events like tennis or hockey and other things, if India plays Pakistan in Davis Cup or Asia Cup hockey, which by the way Pakistan has hardened its stand and has refused to travel to India, that time if Pakistan is okay to come to India without waiting for India to reciprocate, that time India would also provide the invitation to them and visa to them. So that has also been clarified. Now that makes it very clear that India will continue to play. So any kind of speculation or last minute hope that some of the patriotic fans were having that maybe some technicalities would be found out, or Indian government will finally give in to the popular sentiment and stop India from playing against Pakistan, at least in the Asia Cup, has now been put to rest. Now it has been clarified that India will play Pakistan, India will play the Asia Cup, India will play Pakistan there, and if possible India can play 3 times. Nothing wrong in that, no problem in that. So same applies to the women's ODI World Cup, same applies to the next year's T20 World Cup in England, and also any multilateral event pertaining to tennis or hockey or squash or volleyball or whatever. So now at least we are clear that Government of India has no problem in saying that India can play Pakistan anywhere in the world in a multilateral event. And that now brings us to an important question, that if you go by this official document, which is now the Bible for any future reference for any board or any sporting body to decide their contract with Pakistan or to take it as a reference, then one starts wondering about what would be India's stand about the WTC cycle of test matches, because as per definition, now even though test matches are bilateral, but so are actually any white ball cricket match between any 2 teams. At any particular time, only 2 teams are playing, so that becomes a bilateral contest. So that way you can consider test matches also a contest between 2 teams, between India and Pakistan, but it is no longer just an India-Pakistan contest. It can be part of a WTC cycle, which is an ICC World Championship for Test cricket. So just like how you are playing ICC T20 World Cup against Pakistan, or ODI World Cup against Pakistan, or even Asia Cup against Pakistan, so if WTC can be considered as an ICC event, which it is, and if it is considered as a multilateral event, because ultimately 2 top teams are going to play the final, so it is just not the final which is going to be a ICC WTC final where you are anyway bound to play Pakistan, but tomorrow if Pakistan and India go on to fix a test series also as a part of WTC, then technically should not it be considered as part of a ICC global event and they should be allowed? How can then government will say no? Or maybe I know that practically speaking it will not happen, because it comes under part of a future tour program FTP, and India can be under pressure, so India has avoided them, they can continue to avoid. But technically, just as a devil's advocate, if I want to put it, I can still call it as that India will play them, because, and if they play them, there is nothing wrong in that, because it will then become part of the FTP. It is just not a non-FTP event like how say New Zealand played Zimbabwe. It is not like that. It will be India-Pakistan which would be counted, points should be there for the overall WTC cycle. Then how can you say that you should not play that, or how can you stop that? You may play in a neutral territory. So that is one thing. And second thing is, now for a couple of seasons there has been some whispers and some buzz, some discussion going on at the ICC level, even at India-Pakistan level, at the cricket board level, or at least some unofficial talks going on, some speculation is going on that why not revive the Afro Asia Cup, that Afro Asia Cup which was held 20 years back and 2 editions were I think played, and afterwards it was discontinued because of lack of interest and the fan interest or the TRPs or the broadcasters' rights. There has been talk of reviving it, because especially because of the fact that India and Pakistan are not playing. So there is no prize for guessing that why this Afro Asia Cup as a concept is being discussed, and there has been talk about reviving it. The major reason for that is to have more India-Pakistan matches. Let's not try to create any other narrative that okay, it is between two continents. You can have say Australia Afro contest or America Australia contest or something, but no, you are having it Afro Asia contest or Afro Asia Cup, because it will give you again chance for India to play Pakistan. Now if it happens, it will be maybe a 6-7 team event. Then in that case it will be it's a much deserving tournament to be called a multilateral, that too with global ICC sanction. It is not some legends league like a privately held tournament. So then it will fulfill all the criteria. At least here, unlike the WTC cycle, there is no doubt that it will fulfill all the criteria of being called a multilateral event. And that time you can again use your opportunism to fill it up with India-Pakistan ties at group level. Then you can have some Super 4 level, and then you can have semi-final, final, whatever way. And you can manipulate the format and the scheduling to make sure that India-Pakistan once again play 3 to 4 times every year or every alternate year in the name of Afro Asia Cup. And if it happens, technically, legally, or even if anybody endorses it, like me or you, can anybody call us traitor or illegal or immoral? No, because it's the Government of India's policy as per that mandate document which they have already published yesterday, because it's a multilateral event. And if India is drawn to play Pakistan, government should allow. BCCI will be more than happy. TRPs will be there, ratings will be there, revenue will be there, sponsors will be there. So why not? So these type of things can now make a backdoor entry. Of course not tomorrow or day after tomorrow, because the outrage is too much and Asia Cup has already created a lot of heat. So right now there will be no talk, but 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line, this can be very much talked about. This can be very much done. And considering that if the fans outrage is put down and the Asia Cup goes ahead, which it looks like, then once the government and the BCCI are absolutely sure that they have already handled the initial storm in terms of the Asia Cup, and if they could really force their way with the Asia Cup and the fans could not do anything, or there was no revenue or commercial impact, this can easily come, because 6 months down the line, the climate and the temperature would be much cooler, and then people would have also started forgetting. And even those people who were literally outraged today would have thought, what is the point of showing outrage? Any which way these tournaments are going on and India is going to play Pakistan, so let's accept it. And we are very much known, India is known, or we Indians are known to have a sab chalta hai attitude, so we'll accept it. So these things are something which you have to look out for. So it's just not getting over with Asia Cup. Yes, Asia Cup we can't do much, or the fans can't do much, or people can't protest much, because it looks now it's a done deal. We are going to go ahead, but the things which can come in addition to in the next 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, we should really look out for, and it will be interesting to see how it pans out. Thank you.